The Oxford Union murals were painted over 1857 to 1859. They were initially commissioned by John Ruskin. Ruskin called on his friend Dante Gabriel Rossetti. It was a large-scale project, so Rossetti needed some help. So he gathered help from William Morris, Edward Burne-Jones, Arthur Hughes, Valentine Prinsep, and a few others as well. The themes that were chosen were the Arthurian myths, so think Lady in the Lake, think Excalibur. And the idea was that this great big debating chamber, which the Union had just built, it was looking a bit bare. So there were some blank panels crying out for some decoration. The Pre-Raphelites did not finish the job either. So we actually have some later panels as well that were finished off by a father-son team called William and Britton Riviere. Now, they haven't aged particularly well. It's a miracle these paintings are still with us at all. We know from contemporary accounts that these paintings were very vibrant. They've been likened to sort of medieval manuscripts. And you can see in some of the details that this was very much an inspiration for the Pre-Raphelites, was that sort of highly detailed, highly golden sort of filigree effect. We can't really see much of that now. The artworks were deteriorating from pretty much day one. You combine that with the temperature of the time, the sort of the humidity, the conditions, the fact that you have gas lighting, soot, all this contributed to their quite rapid decline. So what we're left with is a sort of shadow of these very vibrant murals. So the Oxford Union has commissioned a condition survey to be carried out by trained conservators. The idea is that we can conduct some analysis, we can get scaffolding up and get up close to the murals and the ceiling, something that hasn't been done for 40 odd years. And we can get a real sense of previous work that's been carried out, potential next steps to aid the conservation of the artwork.
So myself and a colleague started this survey just looking intently, doing a visual examination of the 3 accessible murals that we have. And we really spent pretty much a full week just looking with normal light, raking light, with a UV torch, just trying to get a sense of what we're up against. This painting is quite interesting because we found that it's actually been really extensively repainted, whereas the other 2 that we have access to, not so much. There's definitely some repainting, but not to the same extent as here. And I think the best place to see that, rather unnervingly, is in the face. So we were looking at this in raking light and seeing these little so-called islands of the original, the raised parts, and then realising how everything else has been, and this particular face has been restored. Hopefully, authentically, but we really can't be sure. And as you start to look, you can see that this is a loss and it's been painted in, and then you can start to see this colour across the surface or elsewhere and start to unpick what's actually been done in more recent campaigns. I'm here to do a visual assessment, to look at the condition of the paintings and to determine if it's possible to remove any of the varnishes that have been put on the various campaigns of conservation over these years. And I suppose to make a judgment of how much that affects the visual impact of the paintings, and that we can all at some point get together and assess whether that's enough justification to do a really large scale conservation campaign, removing probably the most recent coating, which was applied in the 1980s, if that makes enough of a difference to how well we can actually see the murals from the floor of the library. So I've done a cleaning trial to remove at least the most modern layer of coating or varnish from this area of the wall here, and that's where Amelia's positioned her microscope, and we're looking in a bit more detail at this area that I've prepared in advance. It was quite easy to remove that first layer of varnish, but the surface looks a little bit fragile to me, so we wanted to look in more detail to see what effect the cleaning's having.
This is an image of the area we are measuring, and this is a software we have implemented in order for us to upload multiple data from the same area, because what we are going to do is also FTIR in reflectance to have the fingerprint of the varnish composition, see if there are any changes. And then we have also XRF, which is going to give us elemental information mainly related to the pigment palette. And so we can all combine these informations within our software so that we can do a better comparison between different areas.
So as well as the trial on the lower level of the scaffold, I also did a smaller one here using the same materials with the benzyl alcohol to remove the most recent 1980s coating. And it responded in much the same way. It comes off in a very clear way, not affecting the pigment. Nothing comes off on the swab, but I can see something of a residue, something blanching on the surface. And I'm hoping that the team can help me decipher what that residue might be and the best ways to deal with that. I invited a team from the ISEC Research Centre, which is Imaging and Sensing for Archaeology, Art History and Conservation, and they're connected with the Nottingham Trent University. And it's a team of actually 5 analysts who have come down, and they're using a variety of non-invasive analytical techniques to help us understand the paintings.
And so we need some light. My lab is here to help the conservators to understand better the wall painting here. Our purpose is to build instruments that are tailored for studying cultural heritage, because cultural heritage has its special demands on what kind of instrument can be used, because for instance it needs to be non-invasive. And when we are at a site like this, as you can see that it's high up, the paintings, and so we've developed a set of remote sensing instruments where you can have the instrument on the ground and all the control system on the ground, and you can look up from 15 meters to get a close-up image of the wall painting. And also not only that, we also get the spectrum per pixel for the field of view we are looking at, so that we can get chemical information as well. This is a world first. Nobody else ever does that. When I say, the world first, I mean that we are the only lab that tend to work like this, because we have a suite of instruments we've built specifically for this purpose.
My colleague did some trials on here. I don't really want to scramble above Amelia. I'm not sure if you can see from here. There's a couple of very little kind of stratigraphic windows that she did, going through the through the layers. So we know that we've got an original ceiling by Morris, and then he came back and redid the ceiling about 20 years later, I think. Every project genuinely is completely different. The challenges and then the thrills of seeing something up close. This is a particularly stunning site. It's so important in art history and aesthetically and in every way, really. And then the scale here, to have 10 basically individual wall paintings, all with their own challenges, all with different stylistic techniques. The thrill of that is, it's a really wonderful project.
So this is step 1. Going from here will involve a lot of people, a lot of time and a lot of energy, but we're looking forward to taking those next steps. King Arthur was all about that sort of fraternity. You have the round table, you have the knights, so they're all kind of in it together. And you see that echoed in the Pre-Raphelites themselves. You have this idea of a group of people coming together for a unified purpose. So the theme runs, from the Arthurian myth to the Pre-Raphelite brotherhoods to the Oxford Union. It is a shared union of ideas, regardless of people's backgrounds. Yeah, it's truly a special place, not just in Oxford, but globally.